I used to do this all the time. I would scroll Instagram, save every healthy recipe, go to Pinterest, screenshot all the different meal plans, and think, I am going to try all of this. And then I'd have about 47 saved posts, and I'd be standing in my kitchen at 5 p.m. with no idea what I was going to eat. And my kids asking me what was for dinner. And then I was more overwhelmed than when I even started. So today I am going to share the 5 food habits that I quit that made all the overwhelm disappear, and I am willing to bet that you are doing at least 3 of them right now. I'm Nikki, and I am a certified health and nutrition coach and mom of 3, and I was drowning in conflicting advice about what to eat. Low carb, high protein, intermittent fasting. Everyone had an opinion, and I was trying to do it all at once. So today, these 5 food habits that I quit actually made food feel simple again. But first, I want you to drop a comment and tell me, how many posts do you have saved right now? Because I want you to be honest. I know I am not the only one with a folder full of recipes that I've never made. Okay, so if you just admitted in the comments that you have saved 50, 50, 60 posts, I want you to know that is not a you problem. That is the symptom of a real problem, which is habit number 1 that I quit, trying to follow everyone else's advice at the same time. So look, I was listening to every podcast, saving all the Instagram posts, scrolling Pinterest all the time, and screenshotting everything. And then I was trying to implement it all at the same time. One person said no carbs after 3. Another one said eat carbs for better sleep. Someone said intermittent fasting, but what was that? Another person said no breakfast. And I'm sitting there at the kitchen table trying to create a meal plan that includes them all at once. And I somehow I was going to be the one who figured out how to do all of the contradictory things at one time. But this really truly backfired because it's like trying to drive to 5 different destinations at the same time. You're not going to go anywhere. You're actually just going to sit in your driveway completely paralyzed. Like when I have to pick up my boys from multiple different places at once, and then I realize somebody's just going to have to wait. Because more information doesn't necessarily equal more clarity. It just equals more decisions. And more decisions is more overwhelm. And here is what the research shows. Decision fatigue is real, like really real. Studies show that we make over 200 decisions a day. And the more decisions that we make in a day, the worse quality those decisions become. Because by the time you're making your 35th food decision of the day, your brain's done. So now I stopped collecting advice and started following one framework, and it's the framework that I built that I also teach others inside of Real Food Made Easy, the collective. Because at the end of the day, I realized I didn't need more knowledge. I just needed fewer decisions. And suddenly, when I had less decisions, food got simple again. Not because I learned more, but because I was deciding less. But then there was this other thing that was quietly draining my energy every single day. And that was habit number 2, starting every single day from scratch. I have these memories of standing in front of my fridge in the morning, still in my pajamas, staring at the eggs and the Greek yogurt and the avocados in my fridge, and I was paralyzed. Like, I knew I needed to eat protein, and I also knew I should eat breakfast, but I couldn't decide. Do I have scrambled eggs or a Greek yogurt bowl, or maybe it was avocado toast? And I stood there for so long that my coffee got cold. All of this over breakfast, because I would wake up every morning and I'd be like, okay, what should I eat today? And then I would spend the whole day thinking about making food decisions from scratch. Breakfasts, snacks, lunch, dinner, and it was exhausting. Because this is like if every morning you had to redecide what route you were going to drive to work. You know the route. You've driven it 1,000 times, but every single day you're going to pull out a map and you're going to reconsider every single possible option. That's exhausting, right? But that's what we're doing with our food. Because decision fatigue before 9 a.m. meant the whole day feels hard. And by 3 o'clock, I had no more mental energy left. And that's when I would start grabbing whatever was easiest for dinner. Look, Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every single day, a black turtleneck and jeans. Mark Zuckerberg does too. Not because they're boring, but because they understood that decision fatigue is real. And every decision that you make depletes your mental energy for the decisions that actually matter. So now I have a couple of different breakfasts that I have on repeat. Sometimes it's eggs and cottage cheese with berries. Other days it's overnight oats and with protein in it and berries, or some days it's chia seed pudding. So 3 breakfasts that I have on repeat all the time and I don't have to think about it. Okay. So it's the same thing. Maybe I change up the flavors a little bit, but it's easy. And I know it might sound boring, but do you know what's more boring? Spending 20 minutes every single morning deciding what to eat and then feeling exhausted before you even leave the house. So look, boring isn't the enemy, but decision fatigue is. So I want you to tell me in the comments, do you eat the same breakfast every day or are you winging it? Because I'm genuinely curious how many of us are making this so much harder than it needs to be. And look, once you stop starting from scratch every day, food gets so much easier. But here's where I still was tripping myself up because even when I had a plan, I'd sabotage it with this next habit. And habit number 3 is trying to eat perfectly. I've done this more times than I can count. Mondays, I would have this beautiful meal plan and everything was prepped and I was ready to go. And by Tuesday afternoon, my kids got sick or I had an unexpected work meeting cut up. And by Wednesday, then I had back-to-back meetings. And Thursday, I forgot to defrost the chicken. And by Friday, I went through the drive-thru. And I was standing at the counter because I had mentally just given up. Because if I couldn't do it perfectly, what was the point? And I had this all or nothing mindset that if I couldn't do it just right, then I would just wing it. So I was either in perfect mode when everything was planned and prepped, or I was in total chaos mode, eating random handfuls of things standing at the counter. It's almost like when you're driving down the highway and you're like, okay, well, I missed my exit, so I guess I'm just going to drive to Canada now. No, you take the next exit and you reroute. You don't abandon your entire trip because one thing didn't go as planned. And I was living in the extremes. And extremes are not sustainable, especially when you're juggling work and kids and life and perimenopause. The truth I had to face, perfectionism wasn't protecting me. It was keeping me so stuck because perfect days are not really real. And when one thing goes wrong and the whole thing falls apart, well, guess what? That's called breaking and fragile and something that I don't want to do. But repeatable days, those are what change your life. And so now I have a minimum plan for busy weeks. It's definitely not Instagram worthy, but it keeps me from falling off. And honestly, this is the whole foundation of what I teach inside the collective, my monthly membership for women in perimenopause, because it is not about perfect weeks. It's about having the skills and creating a plan that survives all of your life. Because at the end of the day, that's the only plan that actually works. So now I've let go of perfection, I've got a minimum plan, and I'm feeling good. But then I go to the grocery store and this next habit completely would derail everything. And I was buying healthy food with no actual plan for how I was going to eat it. There were so many months where I would throw away $50, $60 worth of vegetables. And like the kale would go slimy, we wouldn't eat the bell peppers, zucchini turned into mush. And every time I opened that vegetable drawer, I felt like a failure. Like I bought the healthy stuff, so why can't I just eat it? I would go to the grocery store with the very best intentions in mind, and I'd buy all the vegetables, all the healthy snacks, all the good stuff. And then I realized I got home and I'd have zero plan for when or how I'd actually eat any of it. It's kind of like the time I bought a gym membership and never went. The membership doesn't make you fit, but showing up does. So buying the vegetables wasn't making me healthy, but having a plan for how and when I was going to eat them would. So then I would actually have a plan on Tuesday when I was standing in my kitchen and I'd be like, okay, I know what I'm going to do and I know what I'm going to make. And I wouldn't just end up eating random things or ordering takeout. Americans actually waste 30 to 40% of the food supply, which is equivalent to about $161 billion worth of food every single year. And I guarantee a lot of that is the vegetables and fruit that people bought with good intentions, but no actual plan. So now I buy food with a plan. And I'm not going to just walk through the grocery store and be like, oh, this looks healthy. I think I'm going to make this with that. But now I know that I'm going to be making grilled chicken with sweet potatoes and broccoli, or my kids love chicken noodle soup sometimes. And so there's different things that I'm going to buy for different weeks. And if I buy spinach, I know exactly when I'm going to eat it. Usually with a chicken salad that I make from scratch that I absolutely love, but that I make more than one serving of so I can have it multiple days in a row. See, there's that decision fatigue thing again. So if it's not on the meal plan, I don't buy it. Period. It just doesn't even go into the cart because good groceries aren't a plan. A plan is a plan. And this is exactly why I created my free Healthy Swaps Made Easy guide, because it's going to show you some simple grocery swaps for perimenopause, what to buy, what to avoid, and red flag ingredients that you need to watch for. So the link is in the description and in the pinned comment. So, okay. Now I was buying food with a purpose, with a plan, and I knew exactly what I was going to eat with it. And I wasn't wasting any money anymore. But here's the habit that kept me stuck for years. And this one honestly changes everything once you quit it. And habit number 5 was the big one. It was thinking I just needed more discipline. I used to think there was something wrong with me. Like, why could other women meal prep on Sundays or stick with it, but I couldn't? Or why could they have vegetables in their fridge for a week and actually eat them, but mine would just go bad? I would think I was lazy, I was undisciplined, or I just wasn't trying hard enough. And I would beat myself up over and over and over again for just not sticking with it. And every time I'd fall off, I would just tell myself, you just need to try harder, or you just need to be more disciplined. And I truly hate the word discipline and willpower in those situations because I realized I wasn't failing because I lacked discipline. It was the system that required constant discipline. And that's not sustainable because it's like trying to remember to brush your teeth every day through sheer willpower. And let's be honest, you don't do that. You have a toothbrush by your sink. At least I hope you do. And you do it around the same time every single day. It becomes automatic. And that is what I needed for food, not more willpower, but better and easier decisions. And research shows that willpower is like motivation. It's a very limited resource. It's like a battery that drains throughout the day. By the evening, your willpower is probably down to 30%. And that's why you make some great choices in the morning, but you feel terrible at night. So if your system requires you to have willpower, it's not going to work. It's going to fail every single time. I've seen it over and over again. So I thought that I just would have to keep trying harder instead of smarter. I was using willpower to force myself through a system that didn't actually fit my life. Maybe it would when I was 20, but not now. And so I stopped trying harder and setting myself up for failure. And instead, now my breakfasts are automatic. I don't decide. I eat one of the options I shared before. My lunches are planned on Sundays because I can promise you this, if I don't plan them, then I don't eat lunch. And my grocery list is pretty similar every single week. And this allows me to not wander the aisles wondering what I need to buy. So consistency is something that you have to learn to stick with. And when I started becoming more consistent, food got easy, not because I was disciplined, but because I stopped needing to discipline myself, whatever that means, in the first place, right? So if your system only really works when you're motivated, then that's not a you problem. That is a system problem, and it's not set up for success for you. All right, so let's bring this all together because once I quit these 5 habits, everything shifted. Food stopped being a full-time job. I wasn't Googling, is this okay to eat in perimenopause in the grocery store? And I wasn't having meltdowns in my kitchen, and I wasn't beating myself up for not being disciplined enough. I just ate like a normal person without overthinking every single bite. So if you want help with the grocery shopping piece, I want you to grab my free Healthy Swaps Made Easy guide. It's got simple swaps for perimenopause, what to look for, what to avoid, and red flag ingredients that you definitely need to watch out for. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments. But here's the thing. Once you've quit these habits and food starts to feel simpler, you might still be dealing with intense cravings, like in the afternoon when you have been raiding the pantry. So if that's you, I made a whole video breaking down why perimenopause cravings are so intense and the 5 mistakes that are making them worse. And I'm going to link that in the description and watch that next.